today and talk to you about Assembly Bill 109 and the absolute ludicrousy involved in this legislation. First of all, I just have to ask a real quick question. When you guys bought your house, what was the main reason in which that you purchased the house? 99% of you, I'm sure, would say public safety, correct? Public safety is, when you have the ability to pick and choose where you live. Demographic is probably the number one. You look at the schools, the level of education that people have attained, their amount of wealth, where we like to say monetary or not. We often look at people's salaries. We check a bunch of different things out. But the number one is we always look at the crime rate. Typically people buy the house because they say, hey, you know what? Eventually I want to raise a family, or you're currently moving your family to your neighborhood. What if I told you that Assembly Bill 109 that is currently in the process, currently in the legislative process, is going to greatly affect your neighborhood and your communities? Would you reconsider? The only reason why I say would you reconsider is because right now it's actually on the fence between both sides of the house. The only reason why I feel that this Assembly bill is going to have such a big impact is I see it every day. As a parole agent supervisor, I deal with the parole population, and I deal with the reintegration and rehabilitation of the convicted felons. So now that I told you what I've done, let me go back and explain a little bit about AB 109. This Assembly bill is dealing with the reintegration and rehabilitation of the parole population on active parole. And basically, they're starting a new program. It's called NRP. NRP is an acronym for non-revocable parole. Non-revocable parole means, hey, we can't take your parole, which also means that you're not going to be actively supervised on parole, which basically takes the parole jurisdiction and wipes their slate clean. So the only way for a parolee to then catch a new case or to have their parole taken away from them is for them to catch a new case and go through the entire legislative process all over again. So now that you kind of know a little bit about AB 109, let me explain some of the distinct differences between parole and probation, because sometimes they're often confused. First, let me start with probation. Probation is a county supervision. So if you are currently within county supervision, it means that you have committed a non-violent crime or you're a non-sex offender. However, there are some violent crimes and some sex offenses that will still land you in county custody. And I'm not just talking county custody that you're being supervised, it's also incarceration. So basically, those who have failed, not just once, not just twice, multiple times in county custody, are now, basically the judge has gotten so sick and tired of seeing you in his courtroom that he's like, you know what, you're going to go upstate. So these non-violent, non-sex offender crimes are now landing the convict upstate to go within to CDCR, California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. And so the reason why I bring that distinct difference up is because when people say, hey, you're on parole, it's not that big of a deal, you're non-violent, you're not a sex offender. So basically, the state is once again slapping them on the hand and now giving them a free pass for their good behavior, right? So if you're on county custody and you're just a druggie, you're not just a druggie. Okay, so again, with my professional expertise, let me tell you what usually a rap sheet looks like. In order to be on NRP, you have to have an actual conviction that will land you onto this program. So what it means is if you have a good attorney that's pleaded down, if a judge is like, you know what, screw that, I'm not going to have you take this particular charge, I'm going to charge you with something else, you have now landed yourself on NRP. So basically, let me give you a synopsis. A guy's rap sheet can have 7 or 8 charges, but he's only convicted of 2. So let's say he plead down a murder second to now manslaughter. Manslaughter is not considered an extremely violent crime, so now he's in county probation. Or if he gets state time for that, it's not considered a serious violent crime, and so now the guy is on NRP. So in order for him to have his parole taken. He can't take his parole away from him. Law enforcement would have to pick him up for a brand new crime and reconvict him, go through the entire court process, and then end up back in state prison anyway. So to kind of give you a synopsis of what the system looks like right now and why it's absolutely ridiculous, as currently CDCR, California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, says let's reintegrate, then rehabilitate, and then re-educate. Okay, so they're saying, you know what, we're going to release all these prisoners onto non-revocable parole because we don't have to deal with them right now. So I'm not exactly sure how this makes sense. So the model should be, before we reintegrate, let's re-educate them while they're still in the institution, and then let's rehabilitate them and then reintegrate them while they're re-educated and now they're rehabilitated. So before any of this can happen, it's all going to cost money. But if we re-educate and rehabilitate while they're in the institution, then we can reintegrate them into society, and then it'll save a lot of money. But the AB 109 is purely, they're trying to do it to save a lot of money, but in realistic, let's look at the true cost. If someone has to catch a new case in order to land themselves back into state prison, let's think of attorney fees, because we all know the